Now this is a weird looking motor, right? And believe it or not, it saved me around 3,500 euro. How did I do that? Well, let's go back 4 years ago when this house I'm living in right now got constructed. The base price for it was around 300,000 euro, which is quite a bit of money. And while we did put in some extra wishes that increased the sum quite a bit, I refused to pay 600 euro extra for each electric rolling shutter. Now, in case you're from the US or not familiar with rolling shutters, let me tell you that they are the best thing ever. They can not only obviously completely darken a room, but they also keep your house cool during the summer by keeping the sun out, and they keep your house a bit warmer during the winter because they create an extra layer of air insulation. So overall, I love them. But when not paying extra, you only get this belt to pull them up or down, which is a huge time waste when you have to do this in all rooms. So in this video, let's try to beat my maybe too greedy electrician from back then at his own game and try to install motorized rolling shutters to ultimately find out how much money you can save that way and whether it is worth it. Let's get started! If you're like me, then your workbench might look something like this from time to time. Completely cluttered with a huge scope and signal generator that do not talk to one another. That is where this Red Pitaya StemLab 12514 Pro Gen 2 board could help, which is the sponsor of this video. It's basically an entire high-end lab in a pocket-sized open source board. So in one device you're getting an oscilloscope, signal generator, spectrum analyzer and logic analyzer, all working together. And what I love most about it is its flexibility. I mean, you can use it like a standard oscilloscope straight from a web browser, or go much deeper with Python, MATLAB or full FPGA programming. That also makes it great for learning new things, because there are plenty of free courses and learning resources available. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, then check out this new Red Pitaya board using the link below. Firstly, let's get an overview of the situation. I got a total of 11 windows where I have to open and close the shutters manually. Combine this with the 600 euro my electrician wanted for each electric motor upgrade, and we got a total price of 6,600 euro that I need to beat. And truth be told, while I am a professional electrician and thus have worked with lots of outlets, thermostats, switches and so on, I actually never installed such a motor. So to get a feeling for what is going on and how to do this, I wanted to firstly have a look at this window that already got electric shutters installed. Above it we got a so-called rolling shutter box that is honestly not easy to open. Eventually though I got it, and thus removed the cover, as well as some insulation. Afterwards I lowered the blinds completely to reveal one of the main parts, which is this shaft here, around which the blinds obviously get wound up. The only connection are these clips here, which provide an additional layer of safety, because they do not allow the blinds to be pushed up by force from the outside. When you have other clips, like we will see later, then you can actually push up the blinds more or less easily. But anyway, to get to the motor, I firstly had to unclip these things. Afterwards, I removed the safety clip on the right side and then one screw on the left side, in order to push this adapter in and thus free the shafts. At this point it was fairly simple to pull out the motor and, most importantly, have a look at his type plate, which tells us about the manufacturer, name of the motor, torque, RPM, power and so on. So with this information saved in my head, I put this whole construction back together, and this whole procedure made me feel pretty confident that I could do such a motor upgrade with my other rolling shutters. However, this all changed when I got to my two test windows. Firstly, I wanted to do the big one, which opened up in pretty much the same way as before. But after opening, I immediately noticed that this shaft seems quite a lot smaller than the other one. Yeah, here we got a diameter of around 40mm, while before it was 60mm. That of course sucks, because the motor from before only fits into 60mm shafts. So I searched for a smaller motor alternative, and while they do certainly exist, they are generally more expensive than the bigger motors. What the hell? So you know what I did instead? I ripped everything out of the to be upgraded roller shutter box and got myself such a kit here. This kit not only comes with one of the bigger motors, but also a bigger diameter shaft, which should fit in there, because I noticed beforehand that there was still some space available. And best of, the kit also comes with hopefully fitting adapters, meaning I do not have to find the right ones, because there are also plenty. All in all, this kit set me back €155, and I believe you can go way cheaper than that. But I put my promises on this brand model here, that honestly comes with some pretty neat features. Now to use the motor, we basically got 4 wires. One is for protective earth, aka safety, one is for the neutral wire, and black or brown either connect to the live wire. And depending on which one of these gets powered, the motor turns one way or the other. It is actually pretty straightforward and easy, but like always, working with mains voltage can be dangerous and should only be done by a professional. So with the basics out of the way, I headed back to my empty rolling shutter box, in order to quickly realize that my new shaft and motor does not fit in the existing mounts, and the new adapters I got, which do work with my new stuff, do not fit inside the box because it apparently uses some kind of custom system. But luckily for me, I remembered what the other electric shutter was using, and while getting the motor mount was more or less easily possible, I could not get my hands on this plastic mount here. The problem with it is that its opening is only 10mm wide, but I need 12mm for my new shaft. So while this is definitely not the recommended solution, I made my life easier by simply widening the hole, which worked out pretty well. That means after now securing the fitting adapters in there, we could install the new motor and shafts. But how will we power it all? Well, luckily for me, I planned this all 4 years ago and paid my electrician an extra €712 to install these junction boxes next to each rolling shutter box. When opening this one up, then we're greeted with 5 wires, which all run to the outlet underneath it. That means we can not only grab mains power, but we could also replace the outlet completely with a dual switch to control the blinds up and down. But before doing any of that, I firstly grabbed myself a big drill and created a hole between the junction box and blind box, through which I then pulled the motor wire. At this point it was finally time to get serious, so I cut my new bigger shaft to size using a saw, slid the motor into the shaft as well as the adapter on the other side, secured it all into the box, put on the new more secure clips onto the blinds and clipped them onto the shafts. And just like that, everything was looking pretty good. But I have to admit that I cut the shaft a bit too short. And I of course also forgot to put on the covers for the left and right side. But with that out of the way, I did a crude first test, which seemed to work perfectly fine. Now, like mentioned before, I want to use a dual switch to open and close the blinds, which as you can see does also work. But as you can also see, I have to keep pushing the buttons until the blinds are open or closed. Otherwise it stops, and that sucks. That is exactly why I installed Shelly 2PM devices on my other electric blinds. These things are relatively cheap, and by wiring them up in between switch and motor, you can make them go all up or down with a push of a button. And of course, you can also easily control them through Home Assistant and create automations like lowering all blinds when the sun goes down. So obviously I installed such a Shelly for my new rolling shutters as well, And what can I say? This works beautifully and I love it. The only problem is that installing took me 2 hours, which I need to shorten with the second install. Here the only difference is that you access the box from the bottom, which is definitely annoying, but it looks a bit better aesthetically. But anyway, I repeated all the steps from before and was pretty much done within an hour. Not bad, I would say. But of course the big question now is how much money I saved. And according to my math, it should be around 3,500 euro, if my used hours for installing are free. So yeah, overall I'm happy that I didn't spend the extra money back then, because this way I not only learned something new, but I could also save some money and most importantly show my love for rolling shutters on the internet. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this show. If so, don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Stay creative and I will see you next time.